You know, sometimes you think you know everything about your family, especially the stories that get passed down through generations, the ones polished smooth with retelling until they shine like heirlooms. My grandparents' love story was one of those. It was a beautiful, heartbreaking tale of wartime romance, separation, and a miraculous reunion. Or so I thought. Because it turns out the story I grew up with, the one that made me believe in epic love, was just a carefully constructed facade, hiding a secret so profound it shook the very foundations of my family. I mean, can you imagine finding out your entire lineage is built on a lie? That the man you revered as your grandfather wasn't just a asterisk grandfather, but the asterisk grandfather, the one whose wartime letters were cherished relics, was actually a completely different person than the one who came home. I'm still reeling from it, honestly. Tell me, if you found out your entire identity, your very roots, were tangled in a decades old deception, how would you even begin to process it? It all started, as many things do, with a box in the attic. Not just any box, mind you, but the asterisk box. My grandmother, Elsie, had passed away peacefully in her sleep a few months prior, and my mother and I were tasked with going through her things. Elsie was a meticulous woman, everything in its place, labeled, organized. So when we found a large, unassuming wooden chest tucked away in the furthest corner of the attic, under a pile of old quilts, it immediately piqued our curiosity. It wasn't labeled, it wasn't organized, it was forgotten. Inside, nestled amongst moth-eaten lace and brittle photographs, was a stack of letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon. They weren't my grandfather Arthur's letters. I knew his handwriting well from the famous collection of letters he'd sent Elsie during the war, which she kept in a beautifully carved mahogany box on her bedside table. These were different. The handwriting was bolder, more flamboyant, and the return address was a military base in England, not the familiar European fronts Arthur had served on. My mother, seeing the confusion on my face, picked up one of the letters. As she read the opening lines, her breath hitched. Her hand flew to her mouth, and her eyes, wide with disbelief, met mine. This can't be, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The letter began, "My dearest Elsie, I miss your laugh more than words can say. Every night I dream of your smile, even here, surrounded by the constant threat of war. I long for the day I can hold you again, our baby in your arms. Asterisk our baby." Asterisk the words echoed in the dusty silence of the attic, a deafening drumbeat of revelation. My mother was born in 1946. Arthur had returned from the war in late 1945. It fit. But if this man, this other asterisk man, was talking about a baby, what did that mean for Arthur? What did that mean for us asterisk? The story Elsie had always told us was a classic. She and Arthur, childhood sweethearts from a small village, fell deeply in love. Arthur, a brave young man, enlisted early in World War II, leaving a heartbroken Elsie behind. They exchanged passionate letters, his filled with daring accounts of battle and his unwavering love for her, hers with longing and updates from home. Elsie, a diligent woman, dedicated her time to the war effort, working in a munitions factory. She was a beacon of hope for Arthur, and his letters were her lifeline. The village celebrated his return, a hero coming back to his waiting bride. They married shortly after, and my mother was born a year later. It was a tale of unwavering loyalty, of love conquering all, a testament to the strength of their bond against the backdrop of global conflict. It was our asterisk story, but these letters told a different story. They were from a man named Thomas, and they were ardent, passionate, and deeply, intimately personal. Thomas wrote of secret meetings, stolen kisses under the moonlight, promises made in hushed tones. He spoke of a future they would build together, away from the prying eyes of their small community. He clearly believed they were in love, that Elsie was his, and that their child, my mother, was his child. My hands trembled as I carefully unfolded another letter, the paper so fragile it felt like it would disintegrate in my grasp. Thomas described a clandestine picnic by the river, a place Elsie had often mentioned as her favorite spot, a place where she and Arthur would often go as children. He recounted details that only someone intimately familiar with the moment could know. The way the sunlight dappled through the leaves, the taste of the apple pie Elsie had baked, the precise moment he first felt the baby kick. My heart ached with a strange mixture of sorrow and betrayal. How could Elsie have kept this a secret for so long? What compelled her to weave such an elaborate web of deceit? My mother, equally stunned, started piecing things together. She remembered snippets of conversations, fleeting glances, things that had seemed insignificant at the time, but now took on a terrifying new meaning. A distant cousin once making a cryptic remark about how lucky Elsie was that Arthur came back when he did. A friend of Elsie's, long since passed, who always seemed to hold a flicker of sadness in her eyes whenever the war stories came up. And then there was the photograph, a small, sepia-toned picture tucked into the back of one of Thomas's letters. It was Elsie, undeniably, but she looked younger, more carefree, her arm linked with a handsome young man in a Royal Air Force uniform. He wasn't Arthur. His smile was wider, his eyes a lighter shade of blue than my grandfather's deep brown. This was Thomas. He held a striking resemblance to my mother, and uncannily to me. The more we read, the clearer the picture became. Arthur was away, fighting for his country. Elsie, alone and likely lonely, found solace in Thomas, an RAF pilot stationed nearby. Their relationship blossomed amidst the chaos of war, a desperate grasp for human connection in uncertain times. And then the pregnancy, a desperate, terrifying secret in a conservative village during wartime. Elsie, ever resourceful, must have known the scandal it would cause, the shame it would bring upon her family. And then the return of Arthur, the hero, the fiancé, the perfect solution to a devastating problem. It clicked into place with a chilling precision. Elsie, with the quiet strength she always possessed, had made a choice. A heartbreaking, life-altering choice. She had chosen to protect her child, to give her a father, a name, a respectable future. She had chosen Arthur, and Arthur, bless his gentle soul, must have known. He must have played along, silently, bravely, for the love of Elsie and the child who was not his own. The depth of that sacrifice, the silent agreement they must have made, was almost too much to bear. It was a love story, yes, but not the one we thought. It was a story of two people, bound by circumstance, forging a life out of a lie, and carrying the weight of that secret to their graves. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have kept reading? Would you have confronted anyone? What would you have done with this information? My mother and I sat there for hours, the letters spread out around us like scattered pieces of a puzzle. Each one revealed another layer of Elsie's secret life, another facet of her complex character. We found a small, meticulously folded drawing a sketch of a little girl with big, curious eyes, clearly my mother as a toddler, captioned Our Little Bird. Thomas's last letter, dated just weeks before Arthur's return, was filled with desperate hope, planning their life together after the war. He spoke of coming back to her, of marrying her, of raising their daughter. There was no indication of what happened to him, no explanation of why he never came back to claim his family. The silence was deafening. Had he died in combat? Was he simply heartbroken and chose to disappear? The letters just stopped. The narrative abruptly shifted from Thomas's ardent promises to Arthur's triumphant return. The transition was stark, chilling. We spent the next few weeks trying to find out more about Thomas. It was difficult, given the passage of time and the limited information. We searched old military records online, scoured war archives, and even reached out to a distant relative who was a keen genealogist. What we discovered was both heartbreaking and unsurprising. Thomas was reported missing in action, presumed dead, just a month after his last letter to Elsie. His plane had gone down over the English Channel. Elsie, receiving the devastating news, must have been reeling. Her lover, the father of her child, gone, and then Arthur, her childhood sweetheart, returned home. A hero, a safe harbor in a storm. The timing was almost too perfect, too tragic. It explained everything and nothing all at once. Elsie had faced an impossible choice: to raise her child as a single mother in a society that would condemn her, or to accept the unwavering love and protection of Arthur, who, it seemed, was willing to embrace not only her, but also her secret. We never found any direct evidence of Arthur knowing, no letter from him acknowledging the truth. But his actions spoke volumes. He loved my mother fiercely, raised her as his own, and never once in all the years gave any indication that he wasn't her biological father. He was a kind, gentle man, a true patriarch. He must have known, he must have seen the resemblance. He must have carried that burden with Elsie, silently, lovingly, and in doing so, he became an even greater hero in our eyes. But the fighting in church was a WWII, but for fighting for his family, for the woman he loved, for a child who needed a father. This revelation didn't diminish my love for my grandparents. It deepened it, made it more complex, more human. It transformed their story from a simple romance into an epic saga of sacrifice, secret-keeping, and an unconventional love that transcended societal norms. My mother, initially devastated by the deception, eventually came to terms with it. She realized the immense pressure Elsie must have been under, the impossible decisions she faced, and she saw Arthur's unwavering devotion as the ultimate act of love. She recognized that Elsie, in her own way, had protected her, given her a stable, loving home, and spared her the stigma of being born out of wedlock in a different era. We decided, after much deliberation, that this secret would remain ours. Elsie and Arthur had carried it to their graves, and we felt it was our duty to honor their wishes, to protect their legacy, and to keep the peace within our wider family. It's a heavy secret, yes, but it's also a testament to the extraordinary lengths people go to for love, for family, for survival. So, that's our family's hidden truth, the bittersweet irony of a wartime romance that was both true and false, both beautiful and heartbreaking. It taught me that love stories aren't always perfect, that families are built on more than just biology, and that sometimes the greatest acts of love are the ones whispered in secret. It also taught me that the past is never truly buried. It just waits patiently for someone to unearth it. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you think Elsie made the right choice, or if you feel for Arthur's silent sacrifice. Subscribe for more stories like this. where I dive into the hidden corners of history and human experience. And share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.